Hello and welcome to Newsweek South Asia, a program that talks about breeding of terrorism and its impact on South Asian nations. Let's begin with the headlines first. Pakistan's Prime Minister accepts presence of thousands of terrorists in Pakistan. Pakistan Army aiding Lashkar to carry out terror attacks on Indian assets in Afghanistan. Female suicide bomber kills 9 and injures 30 in northwestern Pakistan. And Afghanistan facing attacks from Taliban insurgents almost every day. In a rare event of confession, Imran Khan, the Pakistani Prime Minister, admitted that about 30 to 40,000 terrorists are currently operating in Pakistan. While addressing a gathering in the Capitol Hill of Washington, Prime Minister Khan also acknowledged the fact that Pakistan-based terrorist groups are still fighting in Kashmir, and its biggest evidence is Jaish Mohammad, which executed the Pulwama attack in February this year. A report. Imran Khan, in his maiden visit to the United States as a Prime Minister, made a well-programmed revelation about the presence of around 40 terrorist groups in Pakistan. The admission made in the United States by Imran Khan is a neatly planned strategy, as Khan is making desperate attempts to receive monetary grants from developed nations. Imran Khan's confession is being viewed as Pakistan's new theatrics because the country's leadership is well aware of the fact that a positive image of Pakistan would certainly advance its chances of getting bailout packages from the United States. In his address to the Capitol Hill gathering in the US, Khan said that,
"I blame my government. We did not tell the US exactly the truth on the ground. There were 40 different militant groups operating within Pakistan. So Pakistan went through a period where people like us were worried about could we survive it."
He is trying to reach out to the US administration and to the US people, as well as to the US think tank community and the US legislators, the congressmen, senators and others, and trying to tell them that he is an honest person with integrity, and that is why he is coming out with all these details that there are 30 to 40,000 terrorists in Pakistan. And he feels that by making this statement and the fact that he is going to act against them, he will be able to win the trust of all these people, and they will be supportive of Pakistan in terms of bringing it out of its economic difficulties.
Successive governments in Pakistan have developed a pattern of blaming each other for not being able to confront terrorism head-on, and Imran Khan also did nothing different this time. While addressing a Capitol Hill reception hosted by US Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, Imran Khan chose to discuss the country's internal political failures and tried his best to shed off his accountability on terrorism to other factors. Although Khan admitted Jaish Mohammad's role in the dastardly attack on Indian parliamentary personnel in February, he spoke unashamedly of group's origin in India, which in reality has been sheltered and harbored by his own army generals.
After President Trump made a few statements about saying that Prime Minister Modi tried to ask him if he could mediate on Kashmir, which has been completely denied by the government of India. And at that point, Imran Khan tried to explain to President Trump that the Pulwama attack, which caused the Balakot attack after that, was engineered and done by an Indian. And he tried to therefore say that Jaish Mohammed took the credit. He made a big blunder because all the help, all the RDX, all the weapons, all the instigation, all the funds come from Jaish Mohammed. I hope somebody in the Pentagon and in the State Department will explain to President Trump what exactly bloomer Imran Khan made by admitting that Jaish Mohammed has been the terrorist organization, which also did the 26/11, and America is demanding action after the 26/11 attacks in Mumbai. Big bloomer by Prime Minister Imran Khan.
The confession by Pakistani Prime Minister is certainly going to put the country in big-time trouble, as India is considering making the remarks as part of its submission ahead of the next meeting in October of the International Terror Financing Watchdog. Indian government sources pointed out that the number given by Mr. Khan were considerably higher than those submitted by Pakistan at the FATF.
When India is taking this self-confession statement of Pakistan Prime Minister and taking it to FATF, I think this will have a huge impact on them. I think the FATF should really look at the situation on the ground. He is accepting that there are 40 terrorist groups, that there are 30 to 40,000 terrorists and militants in Pakistan, and they should demand that if Pakistan wants to get out of FATF and be designated as a normal country, then it should take action. It should provide credible, irreversible and verifiable action against these terrorist elements.
India was swift to take response on the statement issued by Imran Khan, and thus it demands that since Pakistan has now formally accepted the existence of terror groups in its territory and the POK, therefore, the country should take immediate and conclusive action against these pro-terror elements.
Since the Prime Minister has acknowledged the presence of training camps, he has acknowledged the presence of the fact that terrorists are being trained and being sent to Kashmir to fight. It is time for them, and this is something which we have demanded time and again, that it is time for them now to take credible and irreversible action against the terror camps which exist in the areas which are under the control of Pakistan. They should make sure that the safe havens and sanctuaries which are existing in Pakistan should be neutralized. We feel that half-hearted steps to please the international community, which is meant for the consumption of certain people, won't do.
Pakistan has a long history of living in denial when it comes to admitting about the presence of terror groups in the country and the Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. But the latest confession by the country's premier authority is a result of the intense pressure that is being laid on Pakistan from all over the world to launch substantial counter-terrorism action against the terrorists functioning from its land. This week, a prominent Indian newspaper revealed Pakistan's nasty plans against India that seeks to launch direct attacks on Indian assets in Afghanistan. The presence of terrorist organizations like Lashkar and Jaish Mohammad is increasingly becoming a matter of threat and concern for countries like USA and India. The latest terror mission targeting India and USA is led by Pakistan Army in association with Lashkar-e-Toiba and Islamic State in Afghanistan. A report.
Lashkar-e-Toiba, the Pakistan-based terror organization, is working closely with Islamic State in Afghanistan and has drawn up plans with the Pakistan Army to target Indian and US assets and interests in the war-torn country, says a latest report by prominent Indian newspaper. A team of Pakistani Army, along with Lashkar operatives and the country's spy agency, Inter-Services Intelligence, recently held a trilateral meeting in Kunar province of Afghanistan. Various investigative reports that have come from the meeting reveal that the terror group in the meeting was directed to attack Indian and US assets, the people including intelligence officials and diplomats in New Delhi and Washington. Lashkar-e-Toiba commanders have also been tasked by Pakistani officials to carry out different types of attacks, including with suicide bombers sent from Pakistan.
ISIS is a foreign body which is operating in Afghanistan and which is being supported by LET. But since LET is part of Pakistan Army and that too guided by ISI, so Pakistan Army has got all the part to play with LET, and since LET is associated with ISIS, so Pakistan Army is fully involved in the operations of LET and ISIS. And Pakistan Army, why they are doing like this is that they want to establish and they want to maintain their influence in the area of Afghanistan and surrounding areas.
Islamabad's vicious agenda on India comes at a time when Pakistan is under intense pressure from the US and the Financial Action Task Force to launch crackdowns on LET and other groups such as Jamaat-ud-Dawa and Jaish Mohammad. Its plan against India and Washington coincides with reports by the Pentagon and UN panel about the presence of hundreds of LET cadres in Afghanistan. The report by the UN confirms the presence of Lashkar fighters in several provinces of Afghanistan, including Kabul, Kandahar, and Helmand. The report also reveals Lashkar's good relations with Islamic State, mentioning that the IS has provided tactic support for LET to increase its presence in the war-torn nation. While the LET has so far avoided carrying out direct attacks in Afghanistan, it coordinates with Al-Qaeda and Taliban in attacks on foreign and Afghan forces. Along with other revelations, the UN panel had also reported that LET was a key provider of fighters, weapons and finance for the Taliban and Haqqani network.
Pakistan knows very well, that if a nationalist government comes in Afghanistan, which is there now, will not serve the Pakistani interest. Therefore, the plan is to destabilize Afghanistan, remain unstable, and with the help of these militant groups, the idea is to get hold of their natural resources. Afghanistan is a very rich in natural resources. So the plan is to somehow get hold of these. So they are acting, and in this plan, they have also managed to get some support from some of the Arab regimes, which are operating in the Persian Gulf region.
The report from Indian newspaper further talks about several madrasas in northwestern Pakistani city of Peshawar, which are supporting the LET in Afghanistan, including Ganj Madrasa, which helps recruit cadres.
Pakistani madrasas are not ordinary teaching institutions. They were acting and they are acting as a recruiting center for these terrorist elements. All Talibans who have fought against Russian army and who are active still in Afghanistan had been part of these madrasas some time back. They are all Pakistani youths who have been recruited through madrasas in the name of Islamic education, and they have been branded as a Talibans. Even elements for ISIS are being supplied by these madrasas only. So the madrasas have got all the role to play. The complete terrorism is linked to madrasas, and madrasas cannot be easily wiped out in Pakistan.
The reasons for Lashkar-e-Taiba focusing on Afghanistan are strategic rather than ideological, including the creation of safe havens for its fighters and a belief that the Taliban are in a commanding position. With its fighters easily crossing the porous border, LET wants to take credit for an Islamic victory in Afghanistan and has been increasing its presence rapidly in the country.
Pakistan, the country that has for decades sustained as a hub of terrorism, is now enduring after effects of its self-grown militancy. A few days ago, Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan terrorists claimed responsibility of a female suicide bomb blast in Dera Ismail Khan area of northwestern Pakistan. In the suicide attack, 9 people lost lives and 30 others got injured. The attack comes the day after tribal residents in northwestern Pakistan went for their first time voting in provincial elections. We have a report.
At least 9 people died and 30 others got injured when a female suicide bomber struck outside a local hospital in Dera Ismail Khan area of northwestern Pakistan. As per the reports, a group of armed terrorists on 4 motorcycles first opened fire on policemen at Kotla Sedan checkpost, killing 2 policemen, and thereafter a female suicide bomber struck at the entrance of the hospital, killing another 4 policemen and 3 civilians. The attack in Dera Ismail Khan was claimed by Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, which has often waged attacks in Pakistan and its neighboring countries.
थ्रेट्स तो कांस्टेंट मौजूद हैं, हर दिन हर रात. कल इलेक्शन का दिन था, ज़्यादातर नफरी उधर मौजूद थी. हमारी सारी तवज्जो फाटा FR की तरफ थी, औरत खुदकुश और ऐसे हालात में थोड़ी सी गैर मुतवक्की बात थी.
The attacks in Dera Ismail Khan came a day after tribals residing in northwestern Pakistan voted for the first time in provincial elections. The restive city in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province is considered as gateway to North Waziristan and South Waziristan districts, which are considered as hotbeds of terrorism. However, Pakistani administrators make tall claims of curbing terrorism but have failed miserably to tackle its homegrown cult of terrorist outfits.
The claims made by Pakistan that they have finished terrorism are totally false. Taliban Pakistan rules the roost as far as the northwest frontier area is concerned, the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa area is concerned, North Waziristan area is concerned. All these areas, they are ruling the roost, and the law of land does not run there. It is the writ of the Taliban Pakistan which runs in those areas.
Taliban Pakistan is one among those terrorist groups that was raised by Pakistan military to wage attacks in Afghanistan and to extend its contours in the neighboring country. Although they were able to make incursions to certain extent, but they could not wield enough power on Taliban Pakistan that had outgrown into a much larger terrorist group by the time.
Afghan security forces and civilians are facing almost daily attacks by Taliban insurgents, despite reported progress in efforts by the United States to broker an end to Afghanistan's nearly 18-year war. In last 1 week, more than dozens of Afghan security personnel, foreign troops and civilians lost lives after Taliban terrorists waged a slew of attacks in Afghanistan. Here's a report. In just a span of a week, Afghanistan has been attacked by Pak-backed Taliban insurgents more than 4 times. The latest was a series of 3 bomb blasts in the capital city, Kabul, that killed over 12 people and injured more than 45. First, in the triple bomb blasts perpetrated by the Taliban terrorists in Kabul was an explosion in a government minibus, then a suicide bomb blast near the attack site, and later a car bomb blast. The explosions extensively damaged the local businesses in the region.
تقریبا سیوم دفعه است که همین رقم یک حادثه میشه. دفعه اول نیستن و این سیوم دفعه است همین رقم خساره میبینیم. تقریبا پیش از این $30,000 ما خودم خساره دیدم. در این حادثه که از 8 نفر زخمی داریم که در همین 8 نفر هم که از آشپز است، منشی، چوکیدار است و صفاکار است، منیجر است، همین چیزا است و در همین 8 نفر هم 2 نفر کسی نمیل ما شهید دادیم.
A day earlier to the triple bomb blast, Taliban insurgents had carried out another suicide attack on Croatian soldiers who had been deployed as a part of NATO mission in Afghanistan. The attack on the Croatian army vehicle killed a soldier and grievously injured 2 others.
Rano jutros dogodio se napad na vozilo Hrvatske vojske u Kabulu u Afganistanu. Prema zadnjim informacijama imamo 3 ozlijeđena hrvatska vojnika, od kojih je jedan zadobio teške tjelesne ozljede glave i nalazi se u životnoj opasnosti.
The unabated attacks on Afghan security forces and civilians have raised havoc in Afghanistan. A bomb explosion near a gate to the campus of Kabul University in the Afghan capital Kabul killed 8 civilians and wounded at least 33.
می‌خواستیم بریم نزدیکی دروازه بودیم که یک صدا شد دیگه باز ما در کنار دروازه بودیم در این طرف رو بروی دروازه این بغل سرک چی شد انفجار شد باز دیگه 2 موتر در گرفت کشته زخمی شد.
The attack on university came just hours after Taliban insurgents set off 2 other car bombs outside police headquarters in the southern city of Kandahar, killing at least 12 Afghan security personnel and wounding more than 80.
او دلته می توخان کوي کومنداني سره او په کومنداني باندې د ځانمګي پټا او سو د عسكر سو یا عسكر یا پیاده خلک سو سره ټپيان سول بالا غرالش لامبولا سرالي شاني يورا لا مرم بتكون كذا بداي ناس وثا يشرا وثا تكون روت.
For years, major cities in Afghanistan have been witnessing a slew of attacks from Pak-backed Taliban insurgents. While US officials and Afghan government discuss peace talks with Taliban negotiators, the violence by Pakistan-backed Taliban insurgents continues unabated in Afghanistan. The National Investigating Agency of India busted a major terror ploy this week by arresting Islamic State terrorists who were on a mission to carry out massive terror attacks in India. In the aftermath of the sinister Easter blast in Sri Lanka, there were reports of an active IS module that had worked in tandem with the Lanka-based terror outfit Tawheed Jamaat. The same group is now operating in India to replicate Sri Lanka-like attacks in the subcontinent. A report.
Receiving a shot in the arm, the Premier Investigative Agency of India (NIA) busted a terror module, reportedly having its allegiance with the Islamic State, more appropriately the Islamic State of Khorasan, an ISIS offshoot operating from Pakistani geography. The mastermind of the terror module, Zehran Hashim, shares links with Easter Sunday bombings in Sri Lanka and was now conspiring to carry out a similar suicide attack in India's Kerala state. In the last 10 days or so, the NIA India has made much headway on the Islamic State terror issue. The deportation of 14 Islamic State-affiliated terrorists from the UAE was a big breakthrough for the Indian Investigating Agency, as a group which had its links with the terrorist groups like Jaish and Al-Qaeda was seeking to execute major terror plans in India.
14 terrorists have been deported in 2 batches on the 13th of July and 15th of July from UAE. All of them, NIA says, were affiliated with Daesh, with ISIS, with SIMI, Al-Qaeda, etc. and were planning to carry out large-scale attacks through lone wolf attacks using poison, vehicles, knives and other means. Their timely arrest, and they were to create chaos and mayhem in India with a view to establish Islamic State. Their arrest is very timely and is a huge success story for NIA.
Meanwhile, the Indian Parliament passed the National Investigation Agency Amendment Bill in 2019, because of which the NIA has now received permission to pursue crimes committed outside India, further strengthening India's commitment in fighting terrorism in and across South Asia.
And now with that, we come to the end of this edition of Newsweek South Asia. We will be back next week with more news, views and analysis from the subcontinent. Meanwhile, do keep writing to us at nwsa@aniin.com. This is Surbhi Sharma signing off on the behalf of the entire production team of Newsweek South Asia. Goodbye and take care.